Today I wanted to talk to everyone about emotional maturity. You know, you're in a relationship, and you're acting out and you're doing things with, a negative mindset, and you have a negative motive, or you're trying to teach somebody a lesson with your reactions to a situation, or you're just doing things, not thinking, through the situation. You're acting with some kind of malice intent. You're not emotionally mature. And if you truly love somebody, if you truly want to be in a relationship with somebody, you've got to check that. You're doing things that are petty, or you're doing things that are, not in the best interest of you or the person that's, being impacted by your action or reaction to the situation. So if you're doing stuff like that, take a deep look in the mirror and start checking yourself and start asking yourself about how emotionally mature you actually are, and if you're actually ready for the kind of relationship that you're in. As I mentioned before, I'm going through another divorce here, so things are a little bit heavy on me, and kind of had this moment where I was realized, damn, I'm finally ready for all this stuff after all the trauma and everything that we've been through in our relationship. All the traumas that I've caused the kids, all the traumas I've caused my wife. I'm finally ready to actually man up and handle all those things, like a man, like I'm actually able to, process things, and instead of, reacting to a situation negatively, I'm actually ready to, handle it the right way. And might be a little too late, and that's kind of sucks, not gonna lie. I finally feel like I'm emotionally mature enough to be in this relationship that, for so long I've, wanted this. I've always wanted to have this life that, we have, and it was here this whole time. And I might have realized it a little bit too late. So I'll advise you, if you've got somebody in your life that you love and you're going through a little bit of a tough time with them, check your emotional maturity and see if you're doing things that are actually in the best interest of that relationship. See if you're doing things that are, for what's best for you and your partner. And yeah, maybe there might be times where, two people aren't meant to be together, and, that's fine, but you don't really know that until you're emotionally mature. And if you have any glimmer of hope, or, any little bit of love for that person, it's best to do what's best for them and you, and, try to figure out whatever it is that's causing you guys grief. Don't wait till it's too late. Don't wait till they've already gone. Because I'll tell you one thing, the guilt and the remorse that you'll feel once you finally figure it out, once you finally mature, that shit sucks. So check yourself, touch base with your partner, touch base with the people that are, in these relationships that you might be struggling with. Talk to them. Be emotionally mature enough to accept fault, and, be unapologetically sorry for your actions, and then change. Be better. If you realize that you always lashed out in anger, or if you realize that you were always being petty, or if you were always just figuring out a way that the other person was wrong, take a deep look in that mirror and, find fault in yourself. Find where you went wrong in that situation. And I guarantee you, if you truly, authentically look deep and honestly at yourself, you'll figure out that you were probably part of that problem more so than you ever thought you were. So, as I said, check yourself, build up on that emotional maturity, start small if you have to, go with something little, something that's not really that serious, and see where you can do better, and then build on that. Once you get a little bit better at the small stuff, the big stuff comes a little bit easier. So don't expect change overnight. Don't expect expect to, have it all figured out in one day or anything, but little by little, you can get there. All right, it's Frank's talk for the day. Thanks, guys.